Hello, everyone, and welcome to Leadership and Innovation Unlocked with Inclusive Collective, where we bring you news and analysis of the latest in people and workplace culture and share stories and learnings of leaders and organizations driving performance and innovation through inclusion. I am your co-host, Rob Hadley, a people and culture strategist specializing in operational excellence, transformations, AI adoption, and analytics. I am joined by my friend, Dr. Nadia Butt, a workplace culture strategist and talent development consultant. Nadia, how are
Hi,
you?
Rob. I'm well. How
You
are
look
you doing this
fresh. How you
week?
doing?
It's the facials. Thank you.
I need a facial. I need to
They're
get in
so
there.
great and
Yeah, they are great.
relaxing.
It's a
Yeah.
great product.
It's
It's
good
great,
self-care,
great thing to
right?
spend money on. There's a
Yeah,
facial. One of the
totally.
best bang for your buck. Hey,
It,
Nadia, I want to get
yeah.
started here today. I wanted to ask you. This is a very serious question. What is your favorite font?
Oh my God, Rob.
Do you know why I'm
Should we
asking?
talk about it? I know why you're asking.
Yeah. Well, first,
Uh,
so Marco Rubio, I believe he's the Secretary of State. He has
yeah,
many
he's done
jobs,
something.
and
Yeah.
he has at the State Department has ruled out Calibri. The
Yeah.
wait, no, yeah, Calibri.
Calibri.
That's what we call it.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
Yeah, totally.
And
The font.
everything has to be done in new Times Roman fonts.
Yeah.
Apparently, that
Back
was
to,
yes,
yeah.
and
Prior to Biden.
it had
Yep.
been, yeah, in the previous administration, it had been changed for accessibility purposes. Apparently, it's easier uh, for accessibility in terms of like it's easier to read for screen readers, things like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just considered more modern. So I don't know. Do you have a preference?
I just think it's so absurd that we're like talking about this in 2025. Like, I can't believe we're debating what font looks like professional enough for
I want you to weigh
like
in, Nadia. I
diplomacy.
want you to weigh in and tell me which one
Yeah,
you
I really
prefer.
don't give an F. Can I say fuck? Like, I really don't give a fuck. But like what I care about is like it was determined that that was going to be inclusive.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like there's data and research that shows like for visual impairments or accessibility needs, like that was like an accommodation that was like good for these people. And like now we're just going back to like excluding those people that work in the State Department, or even your partners, I don't know, like diplomats and bureaucrats and people. It's just like it's so stupid.
I find it interesting that yes, we will now be switching fonts by administration, and I think that's where
Yeah,
we
it's like
are.
it's like just so tone deaf at best and exclusionary at worst. So, but
Okay.
I'm not surprised. Here
Uh,
we are.
yeah. Okay. Well, I have a few favorites, but tell us what we're up to
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. So today on our Leadership and Innovation Unlocked, we talk about the U.S. poverty line, the latest McKinsey Lean In report on women in the workplace. Then we welcome leadership and culture transformation strategist Michele Kawamoto Perry. And then later, our last rant and rave of the year. Can you believe that, Rob?
I can't
Um,
believe that.
Wild.
Yeah.
But first, as always, let's get to the deets. So, Rob, what's going on this week?
All right. So we have to talk about this cost of living estimate, right? And we have an article from USA Today. An investment strategist went viral with an essay stating that the real poverty line for a family of four in the year should be about $140,000 a year, not the $32,000 defined by the official federal poverty line because of rising costs of living, including housing, childcare, healthcare, and basic necessities. The critics say that using the national average data for that threshold inflates the poverty line unrealistically. And then there are already other measures to capture households between poverty and financial insecurity. Nadia,
Yeah.
$140,000. Is that enough for a family of four?
I mean, it should be. Like, I, you know, as I was like reading this, and I think what strikes me is that it reflects a very real tension I think families are living with today.
Right.
That like even if you don't agree that $140,000 should be called poverty, the conversation like really just centers around like the cost of being a working family in America. It has like fundamentally changed.
Right.
We look at things like housing and childcare, healthcare. I mean, even like the food we eat, like these are not luxury items,
Right.
right? They're basic fundamental
They shouldn't be. They are. Yes.
foundations
Yeah.
of needs and stability. And they've gotten so expensive that even like the middle income families, I think, feel very stretched thin.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It Oh, go ahead.
I
I have more
agree.
to say.
I well, keep going. Keep going.
Well, I think like, when I think about this, like it also shows up in the workplace. Like let's talk about how in the workplace these things like really show up. People are financially stressed. They bring that stress to work. You see burnout, you see disengagement, right? You see people working multiple jobs on top of jobs, right? And you see, I think parents, maybe even we talked about this like last week or a couple weeks ago. You talk about parents piecing together childcare or making kind of like really hard decisions about time and money.
Right.
And so I think it just becomes harder for employees to like focus and to innovate and to drive any sort of continuous improvement or feel any kind of loyalty when the basics of their life are just like not being they're being unmet or unstable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one of the pillars of employee engagement is something we would call psychological availability, right? And so if your mental space is being taken up by just survival, and if you're struggling, apparently even at a number like $140,000 a year, which certainly in certain places that's really tight. Certainly
Yeah.
places like Boston or Seattle or New York, et
New
cetera.
York.
So
Yeah.
it's
Sure.
like, yeah, that will inhibit you from being able to give your all at work, right? And so it becomes a workplace issue, the fact that things are so ridiculously unaffordable, and they continue to be unaffordable, right? So
Mhm.
one of the things I was thinking about is after the last election, you may remember
Mhm.
that one. Literally a week or two after the results, there was a study that came out from Lazard, which is an investment bank, and it said that the Biden economic policies, without a doubt, did not cause inflation. It had a lot more to do with knock-on effects from supply chain, labor disruptions during COVID, right? That was
Mhm.
obviously a little bit late in terms of the declarative nature of that study, but I don't think it would have mattered because most people had made up their mind at that point. Not that sure
Yeah.
people were really interested in digging into the data.
Mhm.
Today, what we're dealing with is the U.S. government is making policy decisions that are driving up prices, right, for
Yeah.
people.
Right.
However you feel about the people in charge and take the people out of it, tariffs are inflationary.
Mhm.
Lower immigration is inflationary. Taking away
Mhm.
healthcare is inflationary.
Right.
Making it harder for people to become nurses or get student loans, that's all inflationary. So the
Sure.
number itself is not important. It's the fact that no one is making an effort to constrain the cost of
Mhm.
living.
Right.
And at the federal level, we're making it actually harder for people. And so companies,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, have to think about this in terms of how they're supporting their employees through either lobbying for different policies,
Yep.
one, but by subsidizing healthcare, tuition assistance, flexibility, so that people cannot pay for childcare, et cetera. Right. So it
Right.
becomes a company issue, and I think
Absolutely.
I'm really happy that that number came out because it really inspired a lot of good conversation.
It does. And you're right. It's like not just about the salary, right? It's about the flexibility, like you mentioned, those predictable schedules or the family supportive policies that workplaces put in place. So I think you're right. Workplaces and employers should really take a deeper dive into that. Um,
All right, so good on
all
the cost
right.
of living.
Yeah.
Everything's shit's really expensive. We got that one
It's
down.
really expensive.
Now tell us
Yep.
about what else.
Let me talk to you about women.
Yes. Oh.
So I'm going to tee up this article for you and then we're going to get into it. But the LA Times covered a new McKinsey and Lean In .org report. So, that's Sheryl Sandberg's group.
Mm-hmm.
And it highlights a really surprising shift happening in corporate America right now. So, for the first time in over a decade, women are actually less likely than men to want a promotion. And not because they're less ambitious, and not because they're disengaged, but because the workplace has moved backwards.
Mm.
So the article really walks through how companies have scaled back a lot of the support that made advancement possible for women, things like sponsorship programs or flexible work options, pathways for development programs for
Mm.
women, and then, of course, as we're seeing, like diversity, equity, inclusion commitments. So, I was curious, like, what your take was. Do you see this as like a leadership and cultural issue, a DE&I backslide. Like, what's what's Rob's take?
I have not gone through the entire report. I mean,
Sure.
usually I like to, get a glass of wine and curl up with the entire report
Sure.
once every
Play
year.
some music in
Right
the
around this
background,
time
get in
every
the mood.
year, I curl up with that report. But one number that stuck
Fireplace
out,
on.
yeah, absolutely, like a soft mink throw, right? The
A mink
support for
throw.
gender diversity in that report from
Mhm.
2017 to 2025 fell 21 points, right? That
Mm,
is astounding. That is an
astounding.
astounding number. And
Yeah.
so, again, while
But
I've been
not surprising.
not
Are we surprised?
surprised at the magnitude for sure,
Yeah,
right? Like
that's true.
that's
For sure.
huge, and I think that's and bigger drop in the last couple of years. So,
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, legendary investor, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, I think probably about 10 years ago said that the key to U.S. growth, key to unlocking growth in the U.S. would be unlocking women and their potential in the U.S. And so
Mhm.
that would be something that we hadn't even tapped into yet as a country.
Mm. Mhm.
And as we see companies pulling back from their commitment, again, it's just a bad idea. It's just an anti-growth agenda.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
the one thing I did want to, as we talk about policy, is nothing in the law has changed, Nadia. Right? So when you see like all the support going down, there's been a
Yeah.
lot of bluster. But if you look at your executive team, it's 85% men. It's okay. It's still okay in the law to say, hey, maybe we could have more women. Now, there's a right way to do it. Put quotas in place. You say, don't say I'm only going to hire women. So you
Mhm.
can say, hey, what's holding people back? What's making folks want to leave the workforce, and remove those barriers for everyone. But
Sure.
right, nothing has changed. There's no reason for this, right?
Mhm. Except that we're, like, regressing back to 1950s. So,
Yeah.
no, I mean, listen, I've actually heard this directly from my own friends, like,
Mm-hmm.
these are very high achieving, ambitious people saying that they don't think the next level is even worth it
Mm.
anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And it's not about ability or desire, it's about that the environment that they are in right now, that they're being asked to rise into, it's not worth it for them.
Right.
And so, like, to me, this actually signals a very deeper workplace issue, right? I joke about that this is like the 1950s, but it's like the 1950s support system around women, right? That then, of course, like, talented women are going to opt out of, right? So this to me is like a really big warning signal for leaders, that the leadership pipeline is telling you that this system doesn't work.
Right. Right. I mean, this report, which people, every year it comes out and it says, and for a while there was a little bit of progress, but it was a very slow progress. This is like flashing red signal that
Yeah.
we are on a path toward an anti-growth agenda in this country, right?
Right.
And if people start to think, and women start to think it's just not worth it, that is
Mhm.
bad for everyone here.
Everybody,
Yeah.
consumers, right?
Yeah.
Employees, workplace. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I will report back to you when I have a chance to do
review
the
the
full
study.
reading, and maybe
Love
take a
it.
selfie of that for
I
everyone
I
as
hope
well.
you do, and I hope we can share that selfie with your mink blanket and your glass of wine,
Yes, yes. Well,
okay, in
so
front of the
that's
fireplace.
yes. So everyone has that to look forward to. So that's it for the deets. Up next, our conversation with Michele Kawamoto Perry. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. This week on Leadership and Innovation Unlocked, we are joined by the incredible Michele Kawamoto Perry. Michele is a leadership and culture transformation strategist and executive coach, and the founder of the Forward Project, where she helps organizations and teams elevate leadership, transform culture, and create meaningful impact. She's also the host of Expressions of Leadership, a podcast and radio show that highlights candid conversations with changemakers, creatives, and trailblazers. After 4 to 5 years of partnering with Michele on client projects and learning from, her deep leadership wisdom, it really is an honor to welcome someone who has been both a mentor and a trusted voice in my own journey. So, Michele, I am so thrilled to have you here join us. Welcome.
Well, likewise, Nadia, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Michele, it's great to meet you. Thanks again for joining us today. And we wanted to have you here because it's our last show within the calendar year of 2025. So we want to talk about big trends, things that have happened over 2025, big themes in the workplace that you've noticed, and we'll get to 2026 later. But let's start with some things that have happened this year. It's obviously been a very interesting year, I think, for many people, certainly in a lot of different respects. I wanted to ask you about emotional intelligence, right? So emotional intelligence is something that's been around since like the mid 90s, and we're hearing more and more about it, and there's been more and more interest in it again. And so just what do you think is happened in the 2025 that makes emotional intelligence such a non-negotiable thing in our workplaces now?
Honestly, it's about building that sense of self-awareness. And I see this over and over again, also in the people that I interview, also in the organizations I work with. That is really the key to building emotional intelligence,
Mm,
to be thoughtful and to be at choice in how we respond to any given situation versus just simply reacting, which is what most of us do most of the time.
hmm
We've all experienced that. And reacting, as you know, and I'm sure I've certainly experienced it myself,
Sure.
can lead to, let's just say, unintended or maybe even adverse outcomes.
Mhm.
So, building and honing those emotional intelligence skills, and what I mean by that are things like, again, self awareness, self management, also social awareness, what's happening
Mhm.
around you with the people around you, and not just what's been spoken, but also what's unspoken. Really
Mhm.
incredibly important. And relationship management at the end of the day, they're all really critical to being more effective personally and also developing more successful relationships at work.
Mhm.
right. And are people getting better at these things, especially the self-awareness piece? Certainly, like with leaders and managers, in your experience.
I would say that once you help them to see that this is something that's important,
Mm,
they're
mhm.
really invested. They
Right.
really do take the time because they understand that it creates certain patterns and that they have more control over the kinds of practices and the habits that ultimately they're forming if they become more self aware.
Sure.
If not, then they just continue in the same pattern. And usually, my question is, especially in executive coaching, is that working for you?
Mm.
And often they say, no.
Yeah. Well, so then how do they build that awareness, or how do they build that skill set in becoming more emotionally intelligent?
Well, one way to do it, first of all, I think, is to take an assessment. It's
Mm.
really valuable to have that assessment in front of you because it's really reflection of what's going on.
Sure.
And it also helps you to see things that maybe you didn't know before. So, for example, on the Emotional Intelligence 2.0, that assessment, they also talk about things that you need to balance. So, you might be really heavily invested in this particular skill, but it's putting you off balance with another skill that's equally as important.
Sure.
So, once they can see that, that helps to give a first self awareness opening and understanding, if you will. And then after that, then you can start to work on, well, what are some of the things that you're doing?
Mhm.
What are some of the things that you're seeing? What are some of the feedback kind of conversations that you're having? And then from there, we can then say, what do we want to do about that?
Sure.
How can we catch ourselves when we're in those moments? And how do we stop, take a breath, be a choice about how we want to respond? And again, doing that in a different way than they've done before in order to build new habits that are going to make them much more effective.
Sure. I love that, especially around like the self-management, the self-awareness, like even self-regulation, right? Around reactions and timing of reactions. You said to me the other day, you had said that often leaders need to see people as human beings and not human doings, and I that has like stuck with me for like literally the past week. And I'm just curious, like, what have you observed recently about how perhaps like this empathy or genuine connection are showing up, or perhaps not showing up in leadership or and in the workplace?
I hear a lot of people talk about this lack of empathy that they're finding in the workplace, and they feel like they're being treated as just task managers at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always emphasizing that point of remembering, yes, you are dealing with human beings, not human doings. Achieving high performance is not just accomplishing tasks.
Sure.
It's also recognizing, valuing, appreciating, and celebrating the people behind those tasks because they don't get done without the people.
Right.
And too often performance and relationship are incorrectly viewed as opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we either are task related or we're people related. And they're really interdependent pairs. So when you treat your people well, they're going to be more satisfied. They're going to be more engaged. They're going to be more committed, as you
More
know,
productive. Yeah,
more
absolutely.
productive. And it's
Yeah.
also going to lead to increased agility and resilience, higher attention to quality, better customer service, all of these things that companies and organizations want, because ultimately that leads to higher profitability.
Sure.
And what would compel someone to show up at work and, look around and see people as a means to, whatever they need to have done, right? And how do you make them aware? How do you reflect back to them, or what gets their attention to start to get people to think that way, that these are human beings? And if you don't have that inherently, how do you get someone to start to notice that we're all working together as people?
And part of it is attrition,
Yeah.
right?
You
I
have
mean,
to
it's
lose them.
just,
Gotta look at your numbers in many ways. Yeah.
if people are leaving, you got to wonder why. Why
Yeah.
are they leaving? And what do we need to change? The other thing is really working with leaders to get to the core of what their values really are. And when people get in touch with their values and what's important, and then they start to understand myself as a human being, I have certain values and needs and desires, then they can start to see other people in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you have to get them in touch with their own to begin with. And it's funny, especially in organizations, one of the things that I find is when you talk about values, leaders are hesitant to say, for example, family is one of their values.
Sure.
Oh, because that I'm supposed to think of just professional things like achievement and whatnot. And then I say to them, okay, so if you have an employee and their child is sick,
Mm-hmm.
really sick, and they want to be home to help take care of their child, do you tell them, no way, it's not going to happen? I don't care.
Right. Right.
And they say no. I said, okay, well, guess family then is important to you. If you have a child or somebody that you need to take care of, do you take that time to do that? Well, yeah. Okay, then family is important to you.
Right.
And so, yes, it does belong in the workplace. And I think people often feel that they have to have these two sets of values, my personal values and my work values. But at the end of the day, and you know this as well as I do, you cannot separate work from your personal life.
Totally.
You're going to bring whatever happens in your personal life to work, and you're going to take everything that happens at work into your personal life.
Right.
And so when we talk about, well, what are your values? We mean your overall values in your life, and how are they showing up in your life? So if I were to follow you around, if I were to be your stalker for a week and follow you around, would I actually see you engaging in those values or not?
That actually speaks to these elements of like role modeling, right? So like, are you role modeling the behavior for folks so that they can like ask for time off to go home and be with like family or caretake or, be a parent? And a lot of that, I think also like speaks to mentorship. And I know you and I have spoke about mentorship and kind of like legacy a lot. And so I'm just curious, like what themes are you seeing and how leaders give and receive that mentorship today? And how is that kind of shaping or taking place inside the organizations that they lead?
Many of the leaders that I speak with, and I feel the same way, quite frankly, really value mentoring as a way of giving back.
Hmm.
There's this shared desire to pass on what we've learned and support others as they navigate their own personal and professional journeys. And for a lot of leaders, this is about offering guidance. And that's important because it's also part of how we leave a legacy.
Yeah.
When people think about what is that legacy you want to leave, that includes how I impacted other people.
Mm.
And so I see it happening in different ways. Sometimes it's a very organic kind of mentorship. And then other times it's very purposeful. So sometimes with executives that we talk to, it's really creating what's your board of directors? Who are those mentors? Being really purposeful about networking and figuring out who are those people that you want to have in your life and why. Of course, that's the most important thing. You're not going to just approach a mentor and say, "Hi, will you be my mentor?"
Yeah, right,
without giving
right.
them
What's like the
any sort of
purpose? And
context or
yeah,
purpose. Yeah.
totally.
So some of it is very, very purposeful. And other times, like I said, it just so happens that you connect with someone, you believe in somebody, and oftentimes that mentorship even turns into a sponsorship.
Hmm. I love
Right.
that. Yeah, and allyship, right? In many ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You bet.
So I want to talk about this other thing that is popping up a lot. It's getting very hot. It's the psychological safety, right? And and I think that there's a lot that happened in 2025. We're talking about we want people to, I think, be comfortable in speaking up. We want them to bring all these different ideas, and we feel like that's the foundation of innovation is that people feel comfortable. But tell me about psychological safety and what are you seeing in terms of the trends? Are people getting better at it? Are leaders getting more comfortable inviting folks to share their ideas and invite diverse viewpoints into the conversation?
Absolutely. And I think people understand as well that it's also allowing for those mistakes to be made and being vulnerable themselves when they make a mistake and saying, "Yeah, I've made a mistake. What can I learn from that?" And that actually goes back to mentoring and role modeling
Yeah.
Hmm.
because when you are able to understand, here's a mistake I made, and I want to share this with you so that perhaps you don't make the same mistake
Right.
or
Right.
you can learn from what I have
Well, that's the
experienced.
element of like introspective work and reflection that,
Yes.
right, like is happening, but maybe could happen a little bit more or in depth, right? To
Mhm.
really course correct.
Absolutely. And I think people are also understanding that when we practice true acceptance, not just by word or just because it says that that's what we do in our company credo, but when they're really doing it, when they're really actively inviting diverse opinions and also ways of thinking and values as we talked about, that's when they open the door to greater creativity, greater innovation. And it's also the kind of openness that fuels human ingenuity, which
Mhm.
is becoming even more important in
Mm.
this age of AI.
Mm, totally. We just had someone on talking like a little bit about AI, and I think there's that human connection piece, what you were talking about earlier, that's like really critical.
Mhm.
So I'm curious then, we've talked about some of the themes around like emotional intelligence or the self-regulation that or management that goes with emotional intelligence, human connection, mentorship, legacy, sponsorship, and then of course like this element of psychological safety and really kind of seeking diverse perspectives and thinking. And then having like that acceptance that you're talking about and vulnerability. Like, tell me, are those the major themes of 2025? And then as we do look ahead, like what should leaders really hone in on and focus on? Because those are so many different elements. And I would imagine leaders don't have all of them. They probably juggle and try to balance, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 that they preference. So how does a leader really kind of step back and say, these are the things I want to focus in on 2026 in terms of my capability and my skill sets?
Well, I think it's not necessarily seeing them as separate things,
Mm,
but realizing that they all need to come together in order to truly be effective. So when I think about the foundation of great leadership, it always starts with that self awareness and emotional intelligence.
yep.
Those are the skills that shape everything: how leaders respond under pressure, how they build trust, how they communicate, and how ultimately they create the conditions for other people to thrive. And so at the Forward Project, that's what we spend a lot of time helping leaders to do, is to really tune into their own patterns and develop that emotional agility. Because once that foundation is in place, then it changes the way that they show up in every area of their work. So from there, a big piece of what we do to help organizations navigate polarities, which comes up all the time, right? Those natural tensions like stability and change, or directness and empathy, or big picture thinking and attention to detail. Maybe it's executing tasks and building relationships.
Right.
Instead of getting stuck and picking one side over the other, we really help leaders to learn how do you leverage both of those. And emotional intelligence and self-awareness comes in as part of that. And when they understand how to hold those tensions more effectively, that's when they open up more options, more creativity, and ultimately better decision making. And that naturally extends to diversity, because when leaders become more self-aware and more skilled at navigating these types of polarities, then they're better equipped to embrace diversity in all of their forms, right? So diverse backgrounds and identities, as we've talked a lot about, and the sessions that you and I have co-facilitated, perspectives and ways of thinking. And we help organizations move beyond simply including diverse voices to actually inviting and valuing them. Right? It's not just including them, because that could just also mean, I'm listening, but not really, right? I'm not actually including what you have to say. I'm opening up to it, but I'm not actually inviting, really truly inviting it. And then that's, as we talked about, where innovation takes off, because where creativity is sparked, and it's really sparked by having all those different opinions. And finally, I think mentorship really comes in as that glue, if you will, that holds all of this together. So once you create a culture where leaders are self-aware, they're skilled at balancing these tensions, and they're truly open to diverse perspectives, then those mentoring relationships can really flourish. You establish that psychological safety, as we've talked about, so people can feel safe to learn from each other, to challenge each other, to share what they have also learned along the way. And that act of mentoring itself not only becomes a meaningful way of giving back, but also helps to shape the next generation, which is ultimately what we want to be doing. And so I think all of it really does come together in a way that helps human ingenuity really shine, when you can actually think about, how do I integrate all these elements versus thinking about them as all separate.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow. Yeah, love it. So, so many things, right? So self-awareness, so all the things that, that made us successful in 2025, self-awareness, mentorship, psychological safety, inviting in those diverse perspectives. Those are all things that'll make us successful still going forward to 2026, right? And so as we wrap up here, if we're a gift giving season toward the end of the year, if you could give someone a gift of either a book or article, podcast, something that, for leaders, and that would make them successful as we move into 2026. Do you have anything that you would give our audience?
So, as in, like, personally, me myself give, or as in give a recommendation? I guess that's the question.
You get a gift, and you get a gift.
I mean, if you want to be generous and give actual gifts, that's great. But I was thinking more of a recommendation.
Recommendation. Okay. Yeah. One book I would really recommend, and it's a really easy book to read. It's called The Thin Book of Trust by Charles Feldman. Okay. And the reason why is because trust is a foundational element to creating that psychological safety that we're speaking of. And why I like it is because it really breaks down trust in 4 main factors. One is care. So if we're working together, if I think that you really care about me, that's going to make me trust you more than if I think you really don't care about me or my needs or my interests.
Right.
The second is sincerity. So do I think that you're truthful? Do I think you have integrity? Do your words align with your actions? Because if they don't, again, I'm probably not going to trust you.
Yeah.
Reliability is another huge one. This is akin to accountability, right? Do you follow through on your promises and commitments? If you say you're going to do something, do you do it? Because we all have had people like that in our lives where they don't follow through, and then you really don't trust that person. You don't really want to go back to that person because you don't think they're actually going to deliver.
Mhm.
And then last but not least, competence. And this is the idea is, do I think you have the ability or the skill or the knowledge to do this task or project or job effectively?
Mhm.
Because if any one of those 4 pieces are missing, that's when trust starts to falter. But if
Mm.
you understand, oh, these are the 4 elements of trust, when you feel that your trust is faltering in a situation, then you can start to examine that and think, well, which of these elements is missing? And how do I start to build that back up? How do we have a conversation around that so that we can repair that element of trust that might be missing so we can move forward more productively and more effectively?
I love that. And then trust is such a critical component to employee engagement and productivity and profitability, et cetera. So
Yeah.
that's
And
great.
team bonding.
Team bonding, right? The team dynamics. Absolutely. Well, Michele Kawamoto Perry, your wisdom and clarity always just really leaves me inspired. And I know our listeners will take so much away from this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back with our con reflections and raves and rants.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so great to be with you, Nadia and Rob. Thank you.
Yay.
Welcome back. We just finished chatting with our guest, Michele Kawamoto Perry. Nadia, this is someone you know their work very well. What stood out to you? I mean, so one of the things that jumped out, and I just want to set you up here,
Yeah.
self-awareness. So Michelle's
Mhm.
perspective, she talked a little about self-awareness. Why does this matter for leaders? What did you take away from that?
Yeah, it's so funny because I love the topic of emotional intelligence. I'm in the midst of getting certified in it, to be able to provide assessments. And she reminded me that, or she reminded us as listeners that self-awareness is the entry point into emotional intelligence. All right. It's that thing that allows leaders to shift from reacting on autopilot to responding with intention.
Mm,
And I think Michelle really talked about how most of us move throughout the workday kind of reacting from habit and stress and old patterns. I know I do that, right? And it
sure.
takes a lot of self-awareness to like pause and to really reflect on like what are you doing, and then understand when we get those unintended outcomes, right? There's misunderstandings that occur, there's tension that occurs, there's miscues. So like being able to pause, being able to self-reflect and do some introspective work and bring that self-awareness, and then ask yourself those questions about like could that engagement or could that interaction have been different? Could that tension be mitigated?
Mm,
That is really kind of adopting yourself to a different type of mindset and behavior. So I really thought she emphasized that point, and I love that. And I think if like we were to have practical actions that a leader could take away from that conversation,
mm-hmm,
I think it would be like practicing the pause, right? Like,
mm,
so before responding, whether you're in a meeting, in conflict, maybe over email even.
right.
Like take 5 seconds to like breathe. I've been practicing the box breathing.
Yeah.
Like breathe in it. Yeah, I get a
Breathe
box
in.
and you got to breathe. Like
Yeah.
it's important. It's important for self-awareness, it's important for self-regulation, right? And I think the question to ask yourself is like, what emotion am I feeling right now? And what outcomes do I want to create? And just those questions, those 2 questions, I think can really interrupt that automatic reaction that we tend to have
Right.
and help shift to more intentional responses.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to practice that this week. So if the box breathing, that's what I need to do.
It's helping. I'm
Let's
telling you, breathe in for 6, hold for 6,
get everyone to do it. Yeah.
and then exhale for 6. Yeah. It's great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Nadia. Thanks for walking us through that. Appreciate it. So tell us, we're going to do some rants and raves. Let's
Love it.
rant, and
I'm
then
gonna rant.
we're gonna do a rave because I heard from feedback that we had too many rants last week. So
I know.
so
We're
one
too
rant,
negative.
and we're gonna do
I
one
know.
rave. Go for it.
Okay. I'm ready. You ready? Because this is a good one. Because this
Okay.
is a group that, all right. So this one like really makes me shake my head. So SHRM, right? The Society of Human Resource Management. We always talk about them for some reason. The world's biggest HR organization. The people who like teach companies how to do right by employees. They just got slammed with a $11.5 million verdict for racial discrimination and retaliation against a former employee. And what does their CEO do? He calls the verdict a blip. Um, right? So, like a blip. Imagine telling a Black or Arab employee who endured discrimination that their suffering is just a minor hiccup, right? It's like super tone deaf. It's disrespectful. It tells you everything you kind of need to know about SHRM's real values. Maybe I know like Business Insider talked about this, and I just really it just feels very like gaslighting. And really disappointed in the reaction, especially by who we talked about. Like, what was his name?
Yeah,
Not
Johnny
Robbie.
Taylor.
It was
Johnny Taylor.
Johnny Taylor.
Yeah.
Like, just really disappointed in that reaction.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. But let's leave on a positive note. So
Sure.
I just really quick, just wanted to highlight Costco suing the Trump administration for their tariff policy, right?
That's me clapping.
Again, I think that in Costco, highlighting Costco in particular, because there are several companies that are doing this, because they've been willing to push back and on some of the anti-DEI activism, and has said, hey, that this is really important. Again, it just shows you that companies that have strength have the ability to push back, right? And so, like, when you see companies cave, that tells you more about the positions that of strength that they think that they're in, versus where you see like someone like Costco push back often against things that they think are wrong or unjust or silly. It shows you that they think that they're in a strong position to be able to push back. And so, you can almost tell which companies are the best performing by who's willing to stand up to things that are that aren't helpful either for their customers or their employees, their communities.
I knew there's a reason why I love shopping there.
And I hate shopping there, so there you go.
Oh, I love a good Costco run.
And
a great Costco gas run is even better.
I want to die when I'm in Costco, but great for them. It's great.
Yeah,
All
great
right.
for them.
All right, Nadia. That is it for Leadership and Innovation Unlocked. This is a production of Inclusive Collective Media. It's edited by Ari Mathey. We would love to hear from the folks that are tuned in, so send us your feedback at inclusivecollectivepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you like what you heard, subscribe, follow, rate us, and rate us. If 5 stars is the max, that's great. If 6 stars, go for it. Do whatever you need to. Wherever you get your podcasts, share us with your friends. Thanks again to Dr. Nadia Butt and our guest, Michele Kawamoto Perry. We'll be back in 2 weeks on January 6th. Where do I know that date from? Something happened. I don't know, whatever. But we'll be back then, the first of the year. So enjoy the rest of your new year. Nadia, thanks again.
Be well. Hey, Happy New Year. Happy
New
holidays.
Year.
Merry Christmas. Lots of things happening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Wishing everyone a safe 2026 and peaceful one.
Yes, a magical holiday season.
Magical one.
I'm just going to keep going.
See y'all soon. Be well.